Good evening. Tonight, I'm doing something special. I I don't know what to call this exactly. Maybe I've been joking about calling it Searls after dark, where I I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm gonna tell you what's going on in my life right now. So my job at work is to uh, work in the open, build stuff in public. But it goes through this filter that's like a little bit more formal. I'm writing a blog post, or I'm releasing some open source, or I'm doing a video that's edited at least a little bit to try to share something that's intentional. But sometimes you just got to play jazz, and some people out there benefit from just seeing somebody with a little bit more experience, work kind of warts and all through what they're working on. At the same time, I've also got like just like this infinite list of systems that I would love to build that would be useful to me in my life, or that I just want to exist, and it doesn't make sense to do them in my normal 9 to 5 grind. I've tried and tried and tried to like get into a bunch of video games lately, or find some other kind of hobby to do in the evening. But to be honest, like I'm just most engaged building stuff a lot of the time, and so it won't be every night or anything like that. But I have an application that I would like to build. I'd like your help by coming along this journey with me. We're going to build a brand new a web application using Ruby on Rails, and I'm not gonna edit that. In fact, I'm not gonna edit a lot of stuff. So I am gonna do things like swear. I mean, I might use some swear words, use some explicit language to the extent that YouTube allows. I'm going to drink beverages on camera. On camera. Maybe I'm just drinking a Coke Zero. Maybe this is just a mixer for whatever was underneath that ice. You don't know, but you kind of know. All right. So here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to build. ChatGPT took the world by storm. It was an overnight sensation because the idea of having like an intimate conversation with an AI was super engaging. And like the best thing that I heard to summarize everything with ChatGPT was like, yes, a large language model can speak fluent bullshit. And it's not going to really tell you about your feelings or develop a relationship with you. It's going to have mistakes and all of these caveats. But the one word that stands out to me is fluent. And I also know that the recent OpenAI language models can do languages other than English, including Japanese. Now, they're not quite as sophisticated, but as a Japanese language learner who's built other Rails applications to help people learn Japanese, like kamesame.com, which is like a flashcard application, I would love an app that was a chat application that used the not the ChatGPT API. It's not public yet, but used OpenAI's prompt API to complete sentences, or basically do the same thing. To do that in Japanese, to imagine like a UI where like it looks like a messenger app, I guess, and I'm typing at it and it comes back with a reply. And they're short replies, it's like text messaging, and I'm able to have a free-form conversation, and as long as its grammar is correct, it doesn't really matter if it's wrong about facts or if it's got a bias or something. Our friends are biased and they're wrong about facts, and it's realistic enough experience that I, as a producer of the language, can get practice at talking about different varieties of topics, using different words and languages, different grammar patterns, and so forth. So I think it's a great way to experiment and learn and produce with the language outside of just talking to my friend. So that's what I want to build. I want to build, using that API, a little tiny messenger app to talk to the computer. Now, there's a whole bunch of other features that we could add. Like, for example, you might want to add a button that would like also ask ChatGPT, or excuse me, OpenAI's API to translate something back into English to verify that you understood it. You might also have a check grammar button. Hey, improve the grammar of this thing that I just said, and maybe it'll come back with the thing that you just said, but with like slightly more appropriate grammar in the context. And there's limitations too, like it can only do 4,000 tokens in a single request, and that would be pretty expensive because it's like 0.2 cents per 1,000 tokens, I want to say, for the latest DaVinci model. So there's some caveats here, and there's stuff to work around. Like maybe I could summarize a conversation in the prompt that I send to the AI to say, like, ask the AI to summarize the last 30 messages so that it kind of has some working memory of like what the messages were about to try to like emulate a stateful conversation. Maybe a ChatGPT API will just come out, at which point this Rails application would still have a working, domain model to work from. And I could just kind of sub out because this is only going to get cheaper, right? So like the time to build something like this is now. So I'm jokingly calling it ChatJPN for speaking in Japanese. And the idea seems right, and I just want to take a stab at it. I have no idea if it's going to work or if it's a good idea or if I'll use it. But let's give it a shot. I've already spilled on myself. This is going to go great. All right, so let's open up a terminal. I organize all my code by owner and then by repo. So it mirrors GitHub. So I'm in the Searls org right now, and I'm going to do a Rails new. I've got a cheat sheet. That's how I'm going to type this and not take 10 minutes. Okay, so the name of the application is ChatJPN. For JavaScript, I'm going to use esbuild to build it, as opposed to the default with Rails 7, which is import maps. It's easy to get into a dead end with import maps right now. There's just some support issues. Whatever, it doesn't matter. ESBuild is very fast. It's fine. It's nothing like Webpack. Nothing like dealing with concatenation sprockets. For CSS, I am CSSSS. I don't know. More styles for me. I'm a fan of Tailwind. I've been converted. I've drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And the out of the box Tailwind experience is pretty good with Rails 7. I don't need Action Mailbox, which is the feature in Rails, recent versions of Rails, where you can receive mail as opposed to just sending it. That's Action Mailer. So I don't need to worry about that. I know I want to use Postgres, the best database. I don't need active storage. I don't plan on storing attachments just yet. I can turn that on later. And then for instead of sprockets, for like my asset management, for the manifests and for all that stuff, I'm going to use PropShaft, which is ultimately going to probably be the replacement for sprockets as an optional thing because it doesn't do the concatenation, doesn't do CoffeeScript, doesn't do a bunch of that legacy stuff. And then finally, my favorite is Skip JBuilder. Because I still don't really know what JBuilder does. I think it's like helping you build XML and JSON documents fluidly, like a Fluent API from forever ago. I don't know why it's still included. I'm concerned about Big JBuilder. What are they paying David to keep it in that gem file? I don't know. All I know is I don't need it. So it's out. All right. So it's got to do the yarns. File unchanged. The fact that they still use yarn, I don't know. I don't have a dog in this fight. All right. I also have an API key that I already created with OpenAI's API in a quick spike that I did earlier this week. I'm going to copy that. It's chat.env. So I'm going to copy that in. You know what? But first, I'm going to move into the directory and I'm going to just commit. So I'm going to open up GetX, which is an application that I used to use, which kind of died. And then I find forks and I've used the forks. And then this is actually an application called Fork, but my muscle memory of typing in GetX is so fast that like I just aliased it. And that just trained me to keep on typing GetX. So I'm going to type GetX, which is my alias, for the new Fork application. And then I take everything that just got generated here. So I watch a mosquito flying. I'm a Florida man now, so I've got that to contend with. It's mosquito mating season, apparently. I'm going to paste in this little bit of magic that I just typed into the terminal. Okay. This is my first commit to every Rails application. I want to know how is this sucker generated so that I can have some hope in hell of figuring out what the default settings were through reverse engineering if I ever need to go in and try to figure out, like, why is this? Now, ultimately, this can all be ascertained without using Git, but it's nice because if I have another application I want to build and I want to use the defaults from another one, I can just do like this one liner. I can say, hey, Git log one line, and then it'll go into, if it's like bigger than a breadbox, it'll go into like less mode, and you can hit just capital G, Shift G, go on to the bottom, and I just copy paste that, and I build my next Rails app. I realize most people don't build a new Rails app every week, but you should try it. It's pretty fun. I'm on my second can of Coke Zero already, and I'd say we accomplished something. We made a lot of files, so that's fantastic. After dark. All right. I'm going to copy this chat.env file over into ChatJPN, except I'm going to do something special. I'm going to say, I'm going to call it .env.local. Okay. So now I'm using VS Code these days, lately, as my editor of choice. So this env.local file is there. I'm going to have to git ignore that. I know that for sure. Oof, it's a lot of... I don't like comment. Whoa. 7. I don't like comments. I don't like all this stuff just hanging around. Just look at all that white space. I just saved like 12 bytes at least. In fact, the fact that it's not alphabetized annoys me. I'm an essentialist. Damn it. All right. .env.local is now get ignored. It doesn't show up there anymore. I'm not going to click it because I don't want you to see what my secret key is, which I will surely rotate. Trust you. This is an expensive API. I definitely don't trust you. No offense. All right. Here's my gem file. It's a disaster. I hate how this stuff gets generated. Again, lots of comments like, I know what Rails is, folks. I can wipe that out. Yep. I know what Postgres is. I don't need the eating bacon operator to like protect me from Puma 6. Puma 6 is going to come out. I'm going to want Puma 6 when I run bundle update, and then I'm going to figure out whatever the breaking changes are. Like, I don't need this protection. Like, that's the whole point of having a gemfile.lock. So I get rid of all of the version pinning. I don't need to pin the versions. Okay, so Redis is commented out. I think I need Redis because I'm going to use action cable. Yeah. See? Okay, fine. I did undo a comment. The comment was helpful, and now the comment is gone. All right. So I do need action cable. I never heard of Credis. I don't trust Credis. I don't know Credis's people. I don't know where he's from. Okay, he's gone. I'm not going to make passwords in this app yet. No bcrypt. Not going to use Windows. No T-zones. Let's see. Reduces boot time. Yeah, boot snap is great. It's Spring you got to watch out for. Spring shows up later in this story. Development test. Yeah, debug is fantastic. Koichi Sasada did the world a favor by overhauling the Ruby debugger and then extracting it into a gem. Web console, also really nice. Like I used to poo-poo the web console because it would lose context all the time. It would lose track of the variable state and stuff. It's much better now. So it's the little black strip at the bottom of your error pages when you're in development. It works really well. And when you click in different areas in the stack, it'll actually change context successfully. So you'll get the local closure scope variables of wherever you're at. I don't need rack mini profile just yet. I don't speed up commands on slow machine / big apps. I don't even think that's a true advertisement. I think Spring just doesn't belong here anymore. If you're using Spring, you're just asking for like bizarre ghosts in your machine that cause bugs that like you spend all day chasing down and then realize, oh, if I just like kill all my Ruby processes suddenly. All right, so here we go. I run bundle again. Should be the same result. All right. Oh, Redis was the one thing I turned on. Clean house, turn on Redis. Okay, next step. There's a few things that I put into every Rails application that I just like to have. First of all, like standard Ruby. I do not. So I've got GitHub Copilot turned on. I do not need standard RB, which is I published as an alias to standard because the bin's name is standard RB, and some people will type that. It just pegs to standard. I'm going to edit out all this in post. Okay. So I want standard. I like a gem called non-committal that I made a while ago. So standard is a linter and a formatter based on Rubicop. That's just, you can't change the rules. If I look at what non-committal does, I'm sure those autocompletes were shameful. Please don't rewind. Non-committal. Yeah. So you call start in your test helper, and then if anything gets committed to the database, it blows up, and that's it. So if you're using transactional safety in your unit and integration test, which you should be doing, meaning that like everything that your test does gets reverted at the end of the test, then this is a good thing to have. You can set it up very easily. Require non-committal and non-committal. This way, it's just like may as well put it there right away before you have tests that depend on committing stuff through to the database, because that can cause test pollution. Then, like if your tests run in a different order, there's like a 1x chance to like blow up because the stuff that has some other test committed to the database, like maybe my user count is 2 because it happened to commit some user into the database, and I was asserting that the user count was 2 erroneously in some other unrelated test. Then random test order starts failing. Anyway, it's a big whole hairy deal. So just add the gem. Another similar category of gem is another gem of mine called Good Migrations. What this does is it will flip out at you. It will table flip if you refer to anything that ends up getting auto-loaded by Zeitwerk in your migration. So if you refer to a Rails model that causes Rails to auto-load something from app models, it'll say, yo, don't do that, because like migrations are forever. They're like diamonds. But like app models changes all the time. And so if your user gets renamed in the future or something like that migration is going to stop working. So you should redefine that class in line so that you can do the operation. I'm over explaining. I'm in a chatty mood. I'm going to just take it down a beat, take a breath, slow it down. Thank you for having that mindful little micro break with me. Bundle. Okay, a few of my favorite things. I'm going to open up rake file. I'm going to set my default task to do test and then to do standard fix. Okay. So be rake. I should have said bin rake. That would have been very marginally faster. Oh, wait. And by default task, I mean task default. Today was supposed to be the day. I woke up this morning before work and I was like, today is the day I'm going to remember task, and then default is the keyword arg and not the opposite. Jim Wyrick, personal hero. He's a friend of mine. Got along really well. Had a lot of fun together with Jim. He's the guy who made Rake. For the life of me, the Rake DSL never clicked. Him as a person, great guy. All right, so let's see what's going on. So all of standard removes a little bit of white space, a little bit of alignment, a little bit of spacing that doesn't really need to be there. More stuff, alignment stuff. This rule, I was chatting with Aaron Patterson. I don't know if this performance benefit is actually worth it. So we're probably going to turn that rule off. So forget about that. Add non-committal, add vibrations. Good vibration. There's a reason I'm a coder and not very many other things. All right. Okay. So far, I've just sort of done like the boring bits. There's one other boring bit that I can think of, which is if I go over into my package JSON, let's see if Tailwind Forms is here. No. Okay, so I want Tailwind Forms. It's kind of like a reset, kind of like a default styling for forms for Tailwind. Doesn't do everything we want, but it's a good starting. That's the kind of slurp that you don't get on all those other coding streamers. No, you got to come here for that. Searls after dark. I don't know why I'm doing this. I've got an empty void inside of my soul. I don't know if you've got one of these. And it just wants your validation. It wants you to like me. Please like and or subscribe. If you do both, I can tell. I'll know. All right. So I want this thing into my package.json. I could just write it like a farmer, or I could use my CLI and say, hey, add this to my development packages. All right. Oh, shoot. Look at what I did. So here it is down in my dev dependency. So like an idiot. Apparently, we put, even though like all this stuff is just development tools, we're putting them in our dependencies now. And that's fine. And here I am editing my package.json. Re-yarned. Okay, yarned. Tailwind CSS form. Looks good to me. Is anything already outdated? Of course it does. So there's already Puma 6. What the hell? Rack 3 probably doesn't work, but Redis probably does. And I requested 4.0. Did I? Oh, look at that. I did do that. Okay, that's fair. You see, and that's why I don't do version pinning in the gem file, because you don't know if it's here, especially if it's here by default. Is it there because we know that 5.0 doesn't work, or is it just because we were like generically cautious that day? Like, I don't know. But if by default everyone agrees we don't pin versions, we just do bundle update, and then we only pin when there's a known issue, and if there's a known issue, maybe we leave a comment explaining what the hell, then we know that the pin means something. But as it is now, I don't trust that Puma 6 isn't going to work or that Redis 5 isn't going to work. As far as I know, it's probably going to work fine. It probably will. But like, I got to try it. So like, what was the pin useful for? You know what really grinds my gears? I'm going to put some more Coke Zero on top of this ice that totally doesn't have vodka underneath it anymore. Sultry. All right. So we're gonna we've bundled. Let's see if our server runs, since we know nothing else is gonna really tell us. All right. The splash page worked. All right. So this is an interesting time in the life of an application, right? Because the world is our oyster. We can do anything we want. We could do what we call we can do bottom-up design, top-down design. Bottom-up meaning like, let's start at the database and think really hard about the models that we're going to use and like what's going to go into the different tables and what are our models going to look like in their validations. And then you get really good at defining what a chat is and how many messages are in each chat. Do we use an index, or do we just rely on timestamps to sort them all? You could do that. Now, if you listen to my tone of voice and you got, some sense of like intuitively just like, how people feel about stuff, you'd know like I'm saying don't do that. Alternatively, you could just like be really pie in the sky and like design like the perfect like UI using just the CSS and just the HTML and just like focus on the interaction. Like, what does it feel like to click the button? You could do that. And that would be fine. But you could probably infer from my tone of voice, like, you shouldn't do that. Instead, the way that I think about, like, what's the next thing that I should do is something that my friend and colleague at Test Double, Joel Helbling, taught me years ago, which is you think about the cone of uncertainty. Because the first day of a new project is the day of maximum uncertainty about what the future holds. Where are we going to go? What's this thing going to do? How's it going to work? And the goal of a software project is actually not to just build bullet point feature after bullet point feature after bullet point feature. It's instead to, as quickly as possible, close the cone of uncertainty. So all of the high risk areas, the things like, is this going to work this way? Is that going to work that way? Will this approach is this even feasible? You want to shake that out as fast as possible. Both so you can fail fast and save yourself some time if it's not going to work, as well as so you can clarify with confidence what work remains as quickly as possible. And I'll tell you what, like talking to an AI in a foreign language and having it be an actual reasonable experience and being able to translate and get grammar corrections and that sounds way riskier to me than setting up a rudimentary database model or setting up a user interface that shows chat messages. So let's focus on that, right? He said, no applause. Just, I'm out here on my own. Shitting gold for you folks. And I got nothing. Please leave a comment about how you feel about these interactions so far. If it's positive, because I don't want to lose my job. I'm still new here. All right. Okay, I can't type one-handed when I'm holding a heavy. It's a large glass. For updates, add Tailwind forms. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good about this much. So the question now is, what's the best way for us to assess this API? One perfectly valid way would be to use like Postman. You know, it's a GUI application that lets you talk to an API. Another would be to just build a little Ruby object that talks to that API and see if we can get it to talk back to it. So here we go. We're gonna write some code. I have an idiosyncratic way of writing code that you're not gonna like. Just get that out of your mind right now. Lib. Oh, that's nope. I wanted to center yourself. Be one with the fact that you hit plus file instead of plus folder. So I'm not an IDE boy. I've been using Terminal Vim for over a decade, but like the extension game in VS Code is so good now that like I kinda am addicted to it, but I'm not happy about it. All right, so app lib. I made this folder. It's not a top level folder that ships with Rails. If your app doesn't have an app lib, I strongly recommend you add a lib directory to app. First of all, it's auto-loaded. Zitework will see it. That's very handy because then you can change stuff in there and then like every time you refresh the page, you'll see your new code. But secondly, everything in app lib, it gives me a place to create a namespace for feature behavior. Now, like app models, that's like values. That's data. That's like the sludge that flows through the pipes every time that like a stateless HTTP interaction or an action cable request comes through. That's the data that's being passed around. In app lib, those are the actors. Those are the service objects. Those are the things that are taking in that data and then doing interesting things. Everything at the end of the day in this whole flippin' industry is an ETL process. It's extract, transform, load. You get a request, you extract stuff from the database, you transform it into some other kind of gobbledygook, and then you load it someplace else. Maybe you're loading it into another API, maybe you're extracting it from that API. Whatever the case. Maybe you're loading it into an HTML page. Like at the end of the day, every single like feature ends up being a pyramid of where do I get the data? What do I do with the data? Where do I put the data? We are nothing in this industry but to use a term that my brother coined. He's a programmer at cars.com. Jeremy said we are digital pipe fitters. And that is what we are. And I've learned a lesson, right? Like, because I'm very focused on my task. Don't create a file when you create a folder. All right, so this folder, we're going to call it open _ AI. We're going to create a file called I don't do a lot of these, but HTTP is like a very common thing that I need. So I don't do a lot of modules. I don't do a lot of module methods. Look at that. GitHub Copilot. Aw, you salty. I actually don't need a GET request right now. I do need a post. So if I say post URL data, and then I just wait long enough to make my eyebrows move, I'll get this. So what's it telling me? Give you your eye. It chose to use NetHTTP has like 8 million ways to use it. Excuse me. NetHTTP has like 8 million ways to use it. It's got a block form of that same method for HTTP new, verify mode, verify none. That's a strange thing to. Then you got the request, then you got the response. Sure, that's fine. I'll hit tab and I'll complete that much. Okay, so in fact, the path here, I'm going to change this. And I'll just say HTTP. Look at that. It saved me a Google. I love you, GitHub Copilot. You're wonderful. I'm not worried about losing my job, by the way, because you'll see GitHub Copilot make some bad decisions. Isn't use SSL like a third option here? I'm very confident it is. Okay. And I think that you can also say http.post. I want to say. I don't like this. I need an adult. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the block form of this. And if I've already opened up headers, I know the third one is headers. Yeah, that's what I need. And then authorization. It's almost like it can hear me. Oh, wow. Oh, and look at that. I'm using single quotes here because I don't know why. Why'd I do that? Well, I'll let standard fix that for me. Which it won't do because I've got a parse error because I got to add an end. Good. Look at that. So you might have noticed. You might have noticed that standard very quickly converted all those single quotes to double quotes because that's what standard requires. You go over to your extensions list over here, you realize, why? Hello there. This is an attractive extension. What are you doing here? Don't recognize you. I've only got 326 downloads. What are you doing here? And this is the yellow Ruby. I call the Chaos Ruby, like from Sonic the Hedgehog, just because standard JS has yellow. So I built this last week, and I love it. It uses, of course, the standard Ruby gem under the hood, but it uses a language server directly against it over standard I/O. It's very fast. I don't know, man. Like, figure it out. Like, if you're using some sort of thing for Rubocop right now and it's not lightning fast, you should probably consider using standard. Every time you use standard, I get residuals though. All right. So you got to you got to go in the README and then you got to add yourself to the list of people who use standard. Who is that list? We're just here to have fun, by the way. We're going to build an app. Hold your horses. It's going to happen. But that cone of uncertainty is only so wide. Who uses this? Now, by dint of alphabetical order, the most impressive sounding company here, other than Thoughtbot, I love you, I love Chad, I love the team, and a collective idea. Daniel, you were an early adopter. Honey Badger, Josh Wood, great people. Planet Bobby Russell had me on his podcast. Seems like a good guy. Planet Argon's been around forever. But like, I think the Amazon Web Services, they take the cake. That's an impressive one. And because it starts with an A, it comes right after Test Double, which apparently we get privileged access. Evil Martians, also friends. It's been a tough year for the Evil Martians with the war. So if you sponsor anyone from Evil Martians, they're great people. They do a lot of awesome open source in the Ruby community. Look at that. We don't even have a homepage anymore. Okay, so we need to add What am I even doing here? Except I can tell you that I put an underscore between open and AI because I wanted to protect my job. And the best way to do that was to name apparently this whole thing slightly weird. So, what do we need? We post that. We should get a result back. I don't trust this. This has got to be wrong. First of all, this JSON parse thing has got to be wrong because it's not in the block. I always call it rec and res. I don't like a lot of abbreviations, but I want to prove that I'm one of the cool kids. What am I doing? I'm a grown man. I worked really hard at this. We're here to have fun. Searls have. I gotta stop saying that. I'm not the egomaniac that you think I am. I actually have trouble sleeping every night because of how much I don't like myself. Don't say that on camera. All right. So back to the topic at hand. Ruby net HTTP 3.2. So I want to, RubyDoc is not the real site, but it is pretty good, even though this is giving me the wrong. It's good because it summarizes this a little bit clearly. I'm going to just type. This is unaffiliated. I did not know this for years, but this is not. You're dead to me. All right. So this is the real official stuff. The good stuff. Okay. Post. Here we go. So you do the host name, and then you do the... Oh. All right. Well, let's try it that way. So we do the host name. You know, but this time with that shit. Data and then headers. I'm pretty sure those are the headers. All right. And if it doesn't go great, there's a if net ht what? Is this a thing? That's not what I was thinking of. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that is a thing. There's like a different like is success yada yada that you can do. But all right. Cool. TIL. Else. At this point in the game, I'm just going to raise. Say with code rest.code. I say rest because I'm, you know, one of the cool kids. All right. Since I'm so confident, you can tell that this is going to go great. So, first of all, I've called the module HTTP, which is fine, because I haven't namespaced it. So Zeitwork won't find it. Let's call it open. Go down to the bottom of the page, add another end, let our standard Ruby, provided by test double, extension, indent, all of those other lines. Think of that. Think of all those lines that indented. It's money in your pocket right there. You can't afford not to install this plugin. That's what I'm saying. http.post. Okay, so the fact that you're seeing the autocompletes and hitting tab, something. All right, this API endpoint is called completions. I remember that much. And the data I want to send it is many splendored in their stuff like what's up. I know I need to send the model I do not remember. It's like DaVinci, yada yada. So here we're gonna go back to the API docs. I promise not to slurp this time. Sorry. All right. Text DaVinci 003. It's a name only a programmer could love. All right. What are we doing? And let's just do that, see what happens. Cool. So that returned. So the block form of this returns the request. It looks like it didn't try to open it. I screwed up. So let's go back. Let's go to that should be new. See what we get. Dot start. One of the things about Ruby that's a little bit tricky is that first of all, reload bang in IRB is the real deal. So now anything I do counts. Ruby will in general, like by default, a method's if you send a block to a method and the method doesn't do anything to the block, you don't get any feedback that like it doesn't know what to do with that block. So I sent a block to it, and presumably that initializer. All right. Of hash string. Oh, I was really freewheeling here when I said use SSL true. Uh, mm-hmm. Oh, what if I simplified it as start? And this is like, honestly, this has always been the knock on NetHTTP. There is not an intuitive API available in standard lib, but there are 80 different unintuitive APIs available. And this is why HTTP Party, another friend of the show. Hello. Searls. John Noonamaker. Great guy. We call him Noons in the biz. He wrote a gem forever ago called HTTP Party. You might know it from such post-install messages as when you party, you must party hard. Or like Faraday, which doesn't have a post-install message. I'm pretty sure whoever made Faraday made it so that you could have a gem that papers over the shitty NetHTTP API without requiring a post-install message. Use SSL true. All right. Okay, reload again. Try again. I don't know. This is not going to work. Weird. Sure. All right. Completions didn't work. I put this in the path. All right. So that means maybe it doesn't. The server doesn't like double slash it. You didn't provide an API key. All right. We're getting somewhere. Authorization. All right. So one way we can check is, we didn't provide an API because I didn't add anything to read that .env.local. You might have noticed that I copied in chat.env into .env.local into this directory, and you were like, what? And I was like, here, let me explain. And then I was like, hold on, I'm going to sip my vodka cola. Not slurping. And then I didn't explain because I was like, I was being present. I was just living in the moment. You can't blame me for that. What the hell? Free bird. Okay, so the reason you made a decision to click on this video. I can't. I can't be considered fully culpable here. Uh, .end Rails, another friend of the show, actually worked with Noons at a company called Ordered List. They were acquired by GitHub in 2010, 2011, early 2011, late 2010. Consultancy out of South Bend, Indiana. Early members of the Great Lakes Ruby group, which was the first Ruby group I was part of in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Great people. Brandon Keepers, close friend, dear friend, wonderful guy, came up with this idea, .env. You could just create these files, load them into the end variables. .env Rails will auto-load them, which is lovely. He's since left GitHub. He's on to his next life, building applications once again with Noons, I believe. Don't quote me on that. These are just friends. I'm not my keeper's keeper. Sorry, I thought there was another camera over there. There's not. It's just a closet full of shit. All right, launching my server. One more time. All right. Wait. Why am I launching a server? I don't have a website yet. And scene. Back to my console. I am going to hit up a couple times, which is going to do this. Get me back to here. Please laugh. Not much. Just hanging out at home. How about you? So there are additional parameters that I can send this thing that I apparently need to. Now, if this works, hanging out at home, if this works in basic Japanese, let's call it a day. I'll speak formally. I will say a sentence meaning, how's the weather? Oh boy. My terminal does not like that. All right. Otenki wa dou desu ka? How is the weather? And then kyou no otenki wa hare. So the weather is clear, like it's a clear sky. Nice day. I think we're in business. So, cone of uncertainty starts really big. We just decided to do the first thing that we would build is this API. Is it for real? Can it do this kind of conversation? And like, as far as I can tell, we've got most of the parts and pieces that we need. You know, I could say, let's take this and say in English now, translate this into English. How is the weather? That's back. So that's the other button that I want to be able to press. Okay, one last one. Correct the grammar of this sentence. I'm going to say improve the grammar. That way it might come back with like the corrected sentence. And I'm going to change the this wa particle to ga, which would be incorrect. Yeah, not incorrect, but like wa is marking the topic of like the weather, and to say ga is like more like marking the direct object as weather. It's like, how's the weather? As if it's like this thing right here. Boom! Thank you, dou desu ka? It literally corrected my grammar for me. So like 3 features. It's the iPhone unveil. It's a fake AI conversation tool. It's we built a translator tool. We built a grammar improvement tool. Surprise! It's all the same iPhone. So this is great. Good start. Great way to stay in shape. Thank you. You've been a real good sport. We're going to keep doing this. So I'm going to commit. I'm going to push this up to the GitHubs. And we'll take it from there. So I don't know how often I'm going to do this. Might be a lot, might be not a lot. But I'm glad that you're here with me. And I would love to hear any feedback that you have, as long as it's positive. Because if it's not positive, it will only feed the anxiety that keeps me doing this. So actually, you'll get your next video faster. Don't take advantage of my low self esteem. I'll catch you on the flip side.